We were all going to be Joe Exotic, and it was going to be so much fun. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
This is really severely cutting into my Warzone time, Corey. We don't have to talk about it. But given the nature of the news stories we have this week, I think we might want to consider going Rogan style. Just
3 hours.
4 hours uninterrupted, and we'll just get high the whole time. But yes, welcome to the O The Anthem podcast. This is episode 422 of the show, and we are coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice, the easiest way. Anchor.fm/O The Anthem.
And check out everything at otheanthem.com. We're streaming live right now on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter via Periscope, and what's the last one? God damn it. Facebook?
YouTube?
No, did I say it? YouTube, that's the other one, yeah. And no matter where you are, we can see your comments, so make sure that you put your comments and questions in, and we'd like to take those as part of the show, although less often now because we have a lot to get to. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, right up at the top, it's Halloween.
Ooh, we might all die of COVID.
Scary.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, we want to say happy Halloween to everyone. I want to say two things in particular. Number one, this time last year, we were prepping for a super fun night. Time Hop is reminding me that, we went to like 4 or 5 bars. What is going on? All right, we went to like 4 or 5 bars, and I got to dress up in my little steampunk outfit, and by that I mean I was forced to dress up in a steampunk outfit, and Corey wore a suit and called it Gatsby outfit with just him in a suit and with his hair slicked back. But we went out to a couple places, and it was fine. It was a fine time, and I think we, in true 35-year-old fashion, we were home by like 11:30, which is also fantastic when you ask me.
The great way of doing it.
But it's different. This year sucks for a lot of reasons. One, Apple has the exclusive rights to It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, so you can only see it on Apple Plus. I have Apple Plus, so screw the rest of you guys. But also because we're not going to be able to go out to bars. And when I say that, what I mean is you should not go out to bars. Because, yes, you can theoretically in some places go out to bars, but you absolutely should not do that because it's a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm also kind of terrified about what is going to happen post trick-or-treating because kids are going to school, kids are getting sick, some kids aren't getting tested because if one kid tests positive, then they shut down the school. Mm-hmm. So like parents are not getting their kids tested. I'm really worried. I mean, just overall in the last 7 days, we've seen the highest spike of coronavirus cases since the beginning of this whole thing with an average of almost 70,000 a day for the 7-day average. Yeah, including 89,000 like a couple days ago, which was the high. This is not setting up to be a very good situation, and I just I love Halloween. I think a lot of people love Halloween, and I would love to celebrate Halloween, but I think we have to all just for the greater good. We all just need to sit tight and don't worry about it this year.
So you can stay at home. I mean, listen. I was trying to plan a remote holiday party for my work, and basically everyone's suggestions were all things which were not safe. Like, hey, why don't we just let people get together in like groups of 10, and then we'll video chat in, but it'll be like 5 groups of 10 instead of everybody. And I'm like, all right, nope. Yeah, I'm going to cut this. We're not going to do this because you guys are going to use this as an excuse to do something dumb, and then I'm going to feel bad when half of my staff dies. Although they're young and healthy, so they probably won't. This is the new normal. It sucks. I'm not going home for Thanksgiving. I don't think you're going home for Thanksgiving, are you? Yeah. I mean, Roberto is, but it's a different situation. Oh, by the way, thank you, Roberto, for joining us as our producer yet again. 4 weeks in after joining us, he is now going to bail out for like the next 8 weeks. So I'm glad we've gotten used to this new setup. So we are in the market for a producer. You have an 8-week trial. If you do really well, you'll be the permanent producer. So just let us know. But happy Halloween, everybody. It's honestly one of my favorite holidays. You can, I know personally on the Everyman Movie Review, I'm doing some reviews of scary movies. I don't know if you're doing that as well. I saw the Trial of Chicago 7 was up. So yes, clearly you are doing terrifying movies. So if anybody's
terrifying in a different way.
Yeah. In like, oh wait, 8 people who have nothing to do with each other are charged with a conspiracy that could end their lives.
Yeah.
So, but have fun, be safe. My nephew dressed up in his little costume, was adorable. My sister took him to like a trunk or treat thing where they were limiting people coming in and like doing it as safely as possible, but also giving him the memory of trick or treating. that's about as much as I will give my permission for it. Not that you give my permission, but like, don't be drunk somewhere. That's just a recipe for disaster. Not that I've made out with a random girl in a bar on Halloween in like 5 years, but it happened.
Yeah.
And me at 3 a.m. in a bar in New York City did not think about whether or not, hey, does this girl have the flu? Let alone the flu that could kill me. So,
well, I mean, and that's the worst part is I feel like that some young people, and by young people I mean like 20-year-olds,
younger than us.
Yeah, younger than us. I feel like some younger people than us are still trying to figure out a way to manage a full social life and have coronavirus at the same time. Not like have corona, but like in the age of coronavirus.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just feel like the time is almost up. Like some people are just like we were all like not surprised that Trump got sick, but surprised it kind of took so long. Like there's sort of a similar feeling I think with a lot of people who have been doing excessive things and will probably do excessive things come Halloween time.
Yeah. I mentioned probability, and once we get down to COVID, I'll talk about that too. Like, people are being dumb. So
yeah.
But I had that time off today, Corey, that reminded me that 8 years ago, however many years ago, I said, oh my God, I realized I'm 2 months from turning 26, which is closer to 30 than 20. Oh, time flies. I'm getting so old. And fuck younger me, Rob. You're an asshole. I hate you.
See, but 26-year-old you probably would still go to
100%.
Still go to the pub and have a Halloween, and
some dumb girl would invite me somewhere, and I would be like, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. I'll mask up. And then 2 hours after starting drinking, there's no mask, and I'm making out with a stranger in the back. So, yeah, that would happen.
Yeah.
But 26-year-old me would also not have to worry about the future of his country now being in the hands of a 42-year-old woman who takes orders from her husband and thinks that is just how society's going to run. And as you aptly put, 26-year-old me who was looking at going to law school at that time wouldn't have to worry about reading Supreme Court decisions that read like an 8th grade book report, which is what I'm afraid we're going to have to be doing. So
to be fair, her usually the first statements of any statement that happens before you actually put on the actual robe, is very perfunctory and very like, I am so glad for this opportunity to be nominated by the president, to be confirmed by the Senate. Like, it's very paint by numbers.
By perfunctory, you mean completely full of lies and will be undone in a matter of weeks?
Well, I mean, like, it's something that needs to be said, but doesn't need to have any additional explanation put to it. Like.
Fair enough. So if you don't know what we're talking about, that might be because you fell asleep for, 10 days and didn't realize that a Supreme Court justice died, and then we nominated a new one, got through the confirmation, and then she's confirmed and now on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's a cool thing that happened. And because she is young, I said 42, but I think she's in her early 40s. She's not the youngest justice right now, I don't think, but she's there.
She's up there, yeah.
Yeah, or down there, I suppose.
Down there, yeah.
And she belongs to a Christian sect that is very, very strict. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of questions that went unanswered because Dianne Feinstein decided she didn't want to do her job.
Right.
And don't tell me how to do my job. I've been doing this for 30 years, and you're not even 30 years old.
By the way, you know who ended up in a Senate Democrat or a Senate Republican's video for raising money?
Dianne Feinstein?
Dianne Feinstein.
For what?
For talking about how great Lindsey Graham was and how wonderful this whole thing was. It became an ad that the Republicans ran to talk about how great they are and how they work so bipartisanly all the time.
And you know what? If the Democrats are so great, why do they lose so goddamn always?
Don't put it aside though, because Chuck Schumer talked to her. So, we're done now. We don't need to do anything. So there was words between Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein. So clearly, this isn't going to happen again.
So I was trying to keep this out of the political discourse because this is a very important election, and we need to make sure that we treat it with the solemnity that it deserves. But I'm going to renew after this election, so after next Tuesday, just as a preview, giant guillotine right there on the National Mall. I'm thinking that is the solution to all these problems. But nonetheless, back to the topic, which is Coney Barrett.
Yeah.
And She said in her statement that it was a long and grueling process, which was untrue, and that she is not going to rule from the bench, which is untrue. And she basically told everyone what their jobs were after having no one have done that job at all for the last 3 weeks. It's disappointing that this is the state of our democracy, and now we are left in a position where the incoming administration and likely the incoming Senate, which will be changing hands, and the House, which will have a much greater majority, I would assume, will either have to decide to redefine what high crimes and misdemeanors mean so that they can do an impeachment. And if they do that, do you go after Coney Barrett or do you go after Kavanaugh, who, I mean, the quickness of the hearing aside, Kavanaugh clearly seemed like he was not qualified for the seat and still got put on the court. Then you get somebody who is maybe equally or more qualified, but doesn't have the personal issues that I think Kavanaugh had. So
I mean, the problem is that I think that the Democrats will face when, say, they win the Senate and the presidency and the Congress and they have the whole thing right there. There's kind of a don't cry over spilled milk part of this, which I think that you got outplayed by the Republicans when you didn't get Gorsuch, or when you didn't get Garland.
Sorry, yeah.
And then Gorsuch was by all means fair because
new election.
You could appoint somebody, and they voted on him. Kavanaugh, much the same way. There, you could talk about whether or not there was a inopportune deal with Kennedy that got him out of the seat,
which there absolutely was, but yeah.
And Kavanaugh takes the place. You could definitely make that argument, but then you'd have to prove that, and then on top of that, the going against the words that were used against Garland and pushing through Coney Barrett, and none of these are illegal. They're all just very skeevy, and that's the problem. You can be as skeevy as you want. Look at McConnell. As long as it doesn't cross the line into illegal, then there's really nothing that can be done unless you're willing to change the system.
The pinned tweet that I have on Twitter, and you can follow me at Robert N. Cheek on Twitter, is a quote which I cannot remember the source for, and I probably should have sourced better because I thought to myself, I'll always remember where this came from. Don't ever trust that. But it's not about whether you win or lose. Sometimes it's about how many pages you add to the rule book. And that is how Republicans play the game. Yeah. They look for that gray area where, like, this is really bad taste, but it's not illegal, so let's do it. And Democrats go to this place. I mean, I mentioned on the ride over here today that Obama went into Obamacare saying, Lieberman aside, I want it to be both sides to agree. I want this to be a bill that everyone can get behind. I don't want it to be a 51-49 vote. I want it to be a 70-30 vote. Let's get solid support behind it. Yeah. And compromise. And then Republicans went on the attack as soon as they could. And instead of saying the Republicans going to the court now saying, we need to get rid of this single-payer healthcare system and go back to a system of insurance, they're saying, let's pull pre-existing care from people or the protections against blocking for pre-existing
Well, the
care.
idea being that we'll give you our plan as soon as the old one's gone. Yeah. Like, we can't do anything about our plan until the old one's gone. But nobody's even talking about what the new plan is. So.
That's because they don't have one.
Yeah.
And
other than Kayleigh McEnany, like, dropping, like, the biggest binder I've ever seen on Leslie Stahl.
A blank binder.
Well, it had things in it, but it was like memos that were like kind of unrelated to healthcare. It was just like when you're trying to make the binder look as big and impressive as possible, so you fill it with every memo you have from the last 4 years.
Yeah, listen, if you're in college, here's a secret. After every period, make a second period, and then search for period after period, and highlight the second period, make it white, and make it 24-point font. And it will add pages to your report, and it doesn't look like it on the page. It looks fantastic. But
just a big period.
But it's white, so it's hidden. Yeah. It's hidden from everything else. So one point of contention is going to come up very quickly, which is today the Republican Party of Pennsylvania refiled their lawsuit, which had just been decided last Thursday by the Supreme Court, that any ballot that had a postmark date of Election Day or with that the postmark date was unclear would be counted in the election. Yeah. And they lost at every single stage on the way up. The judges deferred to the side of more voting is okay.
Yeah.
Might have been late. Who cares? Like, let's count the votes that we want to count. They got to the Supreme Court and they hit a 4-4 split because Roberts sided with the liberal justices and split the court. They refiled today, and they didn't refile today because they thought the District Court of Pennsylvania would feel differently, or the Appellate Court, or the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. They are going to rush this through so that in 4 or 5 weeks, it's before a new Supreme Court. And here's the test. If this new justice really wants to stick to the words of her opening little speech here, she will recuse herself.
Yeah.
And it'll be 4-4 split again, and it'll send it back. And they'll probably send it back with some warning to the litigants about wasting the time of the judicial system.
Yeah.
Which doesn't have any impact, except for it makes you think twice about filing again, because then even if you have something you might win on, they'd be you're worried that they're going to look at it and be like, nope.
Legally, they have to change something about the case too, right? I mean, like there has to be some. There was some something put in the judgments when it reached every stage that they reapply their lawsuit at some point. I mean, like it can't be, like lawsuit ABC. It now has to be lawsuit ABCD.
Well, no, I think what happened is that they filed based on a theoretical posting, like a theoretical what was the ballot going to look like.
Yeah.
Then now they have the ballot, so now they can refile based on like, well, now we know there's no reason why the postmark date would ever be blurred because look, this is the ballot, and now it's exactly my understanding is it's exactly the same case. It was basically refiled with clarifying points, but it's the same case. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of that. The court has heard the Obamacare bill in the last 6 months. They have heard arguments against Roe versus Wade in the last year. They've heard many very controversial cases in the last year, and yet people are refiling the cases as soon as they heard that RGB had died. They refiled because they're like, we're going to get a conservative justice, and we want it to be up at the Supreme Court as soon as possible. If she has any fortitude, which she doesn't, and that's fine, but if she did, she would recuse herself from all of those cases and just say, oh, well, the court already heard this, so I'm going to allow the court that heard this already to rule on it so that my being here doesn't change things. Yeah. Especially if it's the same parties refiling the same case. Yeah. But anyway.
Moving on.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this, but there's a huge outbreak of coronavirus that has gotten worse in the last 7 days since we last spoke.
Oh, you mean in the West Wing where the president was sick and all of that?
Not just there, all over the country.
Oh, wow.
If you look at basically any state that was not originally in all the hot spots, so other than Washington and Oregon and California and New York and Florida, like all those states seem to have calmed down a little bit, but everywhere else in the country effectively is getting hit really hard.
Yeah. Interesting map this morning. So CNN has the moving 7-day average.
Yeah.
Guess how many states are moving in the right direction?
10?
0. You know how many are moving, trending slightly in the right direction, meaning they might still be positive, but they're moving down?
Is that the 10?
That's 0.
Okay.
How many are holding steady?
Is that 10?
Nope, that's 1. That is Hawaii. And the only reason they're holding steady is because they literally can stop you when you get off the plane and be like,
hang out for a little bit.
Quarantine.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, people are just sneaking across. I mean, California has that fruit stand inspection station. We've been stopped at like 1 time of the 40 times we've crossed the border.
Did you buy anything in Nevada? No.
Nope. A lot of alcohol. That's in here.
I mean, it was in here.
Not currently.
15 hours ago, and I gestated it.
But
no need me to get on the side of the road and start touching my nose or nothing. By the way, I'd fail because I just started touching my cheeks.
Completely. Yeah. So
let this be my baseline for when they
play this video for them. This is me usually. I don't know. But no, the next phase is trending in the wrong direction, and there you have, Corey, the 10 states.
Yeah.
That brings us to 11, which means things aren't out of control, but they are looking like they're heading that direction.
Yeah.
And then the remainder of let me get my math right here. I believe that makes it 39 states. Actually, it's 40 technically because CNN and these pollers count D.C. as a state. It's not a state, but they're in the count.
Right.
So they are not trending in the wrong direction, but headed in the wrong direction. So much so that case count is up so high, they're already expecting hospitalizations to start moving upwards, and then deaths will move upwards shortly after that.
Well, and the real major concern here on that regard is that, if you get coronavirus in New York and it starts getting to the point where it overstaffs hospital, or like you're overfilling hospitals and you're at 110% capacity or something like that, there's at the very least a means of an infrastructure to be able to expand a little bit if necessary. Like if New York is at 100% of their hospitals and more people get sick, they have a means of at least getting an extra 10% of space somewhere.
Oh,
if it's
you drive 40 minutes to Connecticut, or
they, make the Javits Center like somewhere where you can put some hospital beds or something like that. And, there's more doctors there to be able to move about all the different places. Like you can, it's not ideal, but you can kind of make it work if you're in a huge metropolitan area.
Oh, yeah, the 10 million people in the metro area.
Right.
Right,
if you're in Boise and your hospital gets like to 100% capacity, you're kind of fucked. And that's the real problem, is that before when the first huge spikes were happening, it was in cities and it was mostly places where they could all thanks to our healthcare brothers and sisters who have done everything they possibly can to keep this from getting worse. But cities are more able to handle this sort of influx of patients, where Des Moines is not.
Well, and I mean, the other thing is that inevitably your healthcare workers are going to get sick too.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to say, oh, we have 15,000 doctors in the metro area.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if 10%, 15, 20% of them get sick, we can still stretch and cover. And when they recover, hopefully they recover, and someone else gets sick, they'll be back. And now they're theoretically immune, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't work in Boise, where you have 4 doctors or whatever, and it's just like, okay, so 3 of our 4 doctors are sick, so we have 1 doctor working the 4 local hospitals, and that's where we are right now. A lot of registered nurses, veterinarians, making a call for veterinarians. Anybody out there who can do medicine? So it's not a good situation, and the numbers trending in the wrong direction in urban areas includes Washington, D.C. And it's not exempt, including the West Wing of the White House. Even though I joked about the president earlier, the vice president having a cluster.
To be fair, he'd be in the OEOB, right? So.
Oh, true. And maybe he's in Annapolis. Oh, wait, no, but he's in neither of those places, because despite that 5 people around him testing positive, he's out on the road. Because, as you know, Corey, the vice president, in his capacity as a candidate for vice president for next year, is an essential federal worker in a way that doesn't violate, hundreds of election laws.
Well, hold on. I mean, listen, what you're trying to do is you're trying to debilitate the Trump campaign from being able to run the campaign that they want. Because without the unbelievable sex appeal of a Mike Pence going around the country and wooing people into voting for the Trump campaign, I mean, there's no...
Listen, I would agree with you.
There's no way that they're going to win this unless they get sexy Mike out there.
I'd give you that point.
Doing his little, Matthew McConaughey moves.
The shuffle?
Yeah,
I would agree with you.
I see a lot of lawbreakers in the crowds and that.
Oh, God. I want everyone to put that mental picture together. Mike Pence doing the McConaughey.
Can we get a deep fake? Can we get a deep fake of Pence?
Oh, we can 100% do that now. There's an app that we can do that with. But no, I would 100% agree with you if the candidate himself wasn't trying to debilitate his own campaign at every turn, basically. So instead, we have an outbreak. Basically, I think his people made the argument that he wasn't in close proximity to the people who have come up positive.
Yeah.
People which included his chief of staff.
Right.
And his body man, the guy who holds the mints and the hand sanitizer for him, was not in close contact with him.
Yeah.
And I know Mother's got a problem with women being around, but I would assume, unless his proclivities are otherwise, she wouldn't mind the guys being around.
He went to a camp for that. He's okay.
Okay.
Got that taken care of.
Got that out of him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's...
He prayed that away, if you will.
I think it comes down... And I mean, we're going to talk about the... I guess we can just talk about the election impact. And it's... Biden is up by 10 points on a national level. And people are asking, well, why? Why is he up so high? Because the number one issue... if it doesn't impact you, but the one you're thinking about, no matter what, fracking is very important if you
Yeah.
work in a fracking family, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the economy is very important, especially if you're not working right now, like some folks that we know.
The economy is very important if, you earn money for work.
Yeah. But dying from a disease that we can't seem to get a handle on is the most important issue.
Nor, according to Mark Meadows, are we trying to get a handle on it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Who was it? Meet the Press this week?
Something like it was the one with Taft. Oh, is it State of the Union? I can't remember.
I don't watch this show.
I don't watch the Sunday shows.
Yeah.
It's just
By the
theater.
way, they're early on the East Coast. Up in Pacific time, I don't.
If you're a political junkie, watching the Sunday shows is like watching the opera. Like it's like
But
too much. It's like too much like
there's a better
pageantry and stagecraft and
there's
like,
a better chance I catch that before I go to sleep than there is that I get up
wake
in time
up
to watch those.
7 a.m. and watch State of the Union.
I mean, my favorite thing about football this year has been that I don't have to get up early because really only place I'd be going is to someone else's house, not to a bar where we can like socialize and do the whole thing.
Right.
So, but Biden's up by 10 points, and he's up by 10 points per the national polls because everyone is like, yeah, Trump can do the economy, but if I don't survive this thing, I don't care about the economy. And fracking jobs are great, but if I don't survive this thing, doesn't matter that I have a job in my industry. Like,
Yeah.
And it's not shifting hardcore people, but what we're seeing is that the number of undecideds is very low compared to previous elections.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this has been an issue, and I want to make sure we talk about it, Corey, because everyone is saying, yeah, but 2016. Yeah, but 2016. And I don't know how many times I can see Nate Silver on TV or hear him or something that he said be put on TV. But basically what he said is, first of all, we called Hillary losing in 2016. None of the news people wanted to hear it.
They didn't call her losing
On the
but
state by state basis, though.
Well, I mean, what they effectively said, just to be
Go ahead,
clear, is like
clarify,
they had a 20% chance of Trump winning, and they were very clear. Like, listen, this means that more likely than not, Hillary will win, but there is still a chance that Trump can siphon off enough states somehow and win, and that's what he did. He won Wisconsin and Michigan and all the swing states he needed.
Yeah,
and
it was
the
going to
election.
be a close electoral vote, no matter what.
Right.
And if he could swing just a couple of those.
Well, and, again, 10,000 votes in Michigan or Wisconsin changes this election.
Yep.
And Hillary wins instead. And, the other thing that people always seem to forget when they're like reapplying the 2016 map to this one is that people didn't want to vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
Like, there were people who liked Hillary for sure. There was a steady part of her base that were just like, I'm so happy she's running. I'm so happy to be voting for the first woman president, blah, 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 et cetera, like that. Most of the Democratic Party, though, was begrudgingly voting for Hillary.
Yes.
Like,
And
it's not, nobody's first choice was Hillary.
some people, like me, just said, I'm not going to vote for her.
Yeah.
I refuse to. But that was also before we knew what Trump would be like as a president. It was a theoretical President Trump. And now we know. And that is not as big of an impact because people are like, begrudgingly, yes, but also saying, I'm not sitting this one out. No.
Well, I mean, like, Trump's Waging a campaign like he's the competitor, or like the opponent. Like,
yeah, like he's coming
Biden
in.
is the president.
Yeah.
Like, and it just doesn't work. Like, his only hope is that he's the outcast insurgent who like comes out from nowhere. Like,
Yeah. But I mean, to address that problem, one, pollsters have refigured the way that they do the national number. The national number takes way more impact from local polls now because essentially what we saw, which by the way was correct, Hillary won the popular vote. Nationwide, she swung it by 2.3 million votes. But 10,000 votes in Wisconsin that went the other way changed the electoral outcome of that state, which helped change the Electoral College, which is, by the way, if you haven't listened to the latest episode of Rob Explains, how we elect a president. Your vote means very little on how we elect a president.
Yeah.
It only impacts your state. So, and you could win California by a margin of 95% to 5%.
you don't get more electoral college
only
votes.
gets you 54. That's what you're going to get. But the other part of this is that they are looking at local polls too. And I think that, again, not to kind of spike on CNN with this, but they're the ones that I have seen do the best job of this, where they're saying, okay, so let's say we're wrong. And let's say Trump does take Wisconsin, Ohio, Florida, Michigan. He's still at 248 because he's losing ground other places. By the way, if you're a Democrat running, there is nothing better than a goddamn astronaut running for Senate in a state who's your party leading you into your election, because the things that now his name escapes me,
Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly has done in Arizona to be like, hey, you voted for John McCain, an American hero. I'm betting you voted for him because he was an American hero, not because he was Republican. I'm an American hero. You should vote for me.
Yeah.
And the people being like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat now. I'm going to vote for a Democrat. And then that somehow transferring to like, well, you know, Biden also.
Also in Mark Kelly's advantage too is that Martha McSally is just like, you know, like an amalgam of all the worst parts of the Republican Party.
That helps too.
Like, it's not like Arizona has kind of like, you know, like over the years been like shifting slightly blue. Like they've been a solid red state for so long, and sort of as the population growth boomed. So like the problem is that everyone wants to see one number and say, oh, Biden's up by 10. So he's going to win the election by 10%, and that's going to equal this many electoral votes. No. You really have to break it down on a state-by-state basis.
Yeah.
So, like, in a case of something like Arizona, you have major population centers, which is Phoenix and all the cities that sort of, like, surround Phoenix, but makes it
Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix. Yes. All the cities that are just in neighborhoods of Phoenix.
Yes.
And then, you know, you have Tucson, and there's like a couple other like population centers, but they aren't nearly Phoenix and Tucson.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the state is very
rural and red,
and for the most part uninhabited.
Yeah.
Like it's very low propensity voters around the rest of the state. So as the population center grows in the cities, the state moves more left.
Yeah.
So the question you have for yourself in Arizona is kind of the same thing you have with yourself in like Michigan, for instance. Like Michigan is, for all intents and purposes, like area-wise, very red. But there's so many people in Detroit who are Democrats, and a couple other, like Lansing, I think, is very blue, and a couple other spots. But like it's like a solidly, it looks like it's 80% red if you looked at it on like a county level. But then the population centers are where the blue votes come from, and that is what makes Michigan such a solid blue vote most of the time, is because most of the people live in Michigan and Lansing. They don't live in Detroit and Lansing. They don't live in.
I really want to find the graphic, but it was a very cool graphic that showed that, like, if let's break it down by county, blue, red counties, and they show the whole map, and you see like, wow, there is so much red.
Yeah.
And then the map basically tilts to like a 70-degree angle, and it's like, now we're going to show you population, and like the blues skyrocket up out of the map, and just the reds are just all at level. And you can see that, like, yes, there's a lot of conservative Republican people here. They're very spread out over a lot of landmass, but a lot of Democratic, a lot of blue leftist voters live in these very small counties. And I mean, I talked about it on the podcast too. It's just, you know, when you get in a place like California, that's great. If California really wanted to help the union, they would break up into 4 states. You would have 1 conservative state and 3 very blue states. But right now we're of a lot of population in a very blue state that does no good. You get 54 votes. That's all you're going to get.
Well, I mean, you can see this in like New York as well.
Yeah.
Because like if you look at like where the congressmen in New York are, like obviously everything in New York City is just solid blue.
Yeah.
As far as the eye can see, you get
some out in Suffolk actually is, I think the one in Suffolk.
When you get to the edge of Long Island is where you start getting a little bit conservative, but closer towards the city is the liberal bastion there.
Yeah.
And then over top of New York and like, you know, New Rock City and Yonkers and stuff like that, you have sort of like more Democratic levels, but it starts teetering out a little bit. And then as you go further north, it starts getting redder and redder until eventually you get to like college towns and stuff like that.
Well,
like
and I was going to say that
Buffalo and Albany and stuff like that start tending blue. But you'll look at where the population centers are is where all the Democrats are, and where nobody lives is where all the Republicans are.
Yeah.
And you say, wow, New York looks like it's a really red state. And then you realize that more people live in New York City than live in any of those red areas of the state. So they've all shoved themselves into 5 counties.
The mile and a half of Manhattan has like 4 congressmen.
Yeah.
And there are 4 congressmen for everything north of Albany and west to Canada, like border to Canada. It's a third of the state has 4 congressmen, and so does the borough of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Also has 4 congressmen. So it's in that mindset of, again, also I really loved that map on New York because it was so weird. It's like, oh, there's so much red with just these little dots of blue in the north, but you tilt and you just see like Buffalo, like I hate all those towns with the Native American names that I can't pronounce, but Albany, Buffalo, and then like Ronkonkoma is on Long Island.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's a SUNY school, it's just this like one dot of blue.
Yeah.
That is 1,000 times higher than all of the red around it. And
right.
It's an amazing view just to be like, the number of the landmass by population is completely reversed, essentially. Like the number of people that you have within a city versus the number of acres you have per person is nearly diametrical to each other.
This is part of the reason why we have 2 states that have split votes.
Yes.
So Iowa and Maine both have split
Nebraska
votes.
And Maine.
Is it Nebraska? I thought it was Iowa.
Nope, Nebraska, because the 2 major cities, Lincoln and the other one in the east, they have they're in one district, and then the rest of the state is one district. And then Maine,
so it's like,
the
let's
same way.
separate the Democrats from the rest of the...
Honestly, I know it works out that way. I know it wasn't intended that way, but it looks like it was intended that way.
Yeah.
Maine's the same way. Portland and...
Bangor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are in one district, and then it's like the rest of the north part of the state.
Right.
One's red, one's blue, and then you get bonus for winning statewide. So inevitably, in Maine, the Democrat wins statewide, and then one district, and two of the votes, I think, go to the other guy. So...
But just 30 seconds before we leave here.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about COVID here, sometimes I think it's good to look at places where they've managed to do well as opposed to others and see what kind of lessons we can learn from that. LA Times article this week talked about San Francisco's success and that if the rest of the country had followed the same sort of path that San Francisco had laid forward, that they imagined that the deaths would be somewhere around 50,000 as opposed to...
that's not that much less than what we have.
220,000.
Oh,
now.
Yeah. And 50,000 is much more in line with per capita other countries.
Right. Like other ones who have been doing well throughout this whole thing. And 50,000 would probably mean that we would be having school in person again and, a whole bunch of other things that we don't get to do right now.
Well, there would always be a fall wave, but there probably would have been no second wave in the summer. It would be like
if people would have gotten in. But, like people are saying like, well, what does this actually apply? A couple of these things don't really like help because San Francisco is an industry town. So the tech companies told people to work from home way earlier than other people could because you can't really work from home if you run a restaurant. So they had an advantage there. They also have the advantage of having 50 years of trust in the healthcare system within San Francisco because they were forthright and honest through them throughout the whole AIDS epidemic, which really ravaged San Francisco more than most cities. And they just did everything that, from distancing to mass to contact tracing, which they seem to be doing and nobody else seems to be doing.
Well, also the AIDS crisis helped them with they've already been doing contact tracing for
and people knew
years.
that. I mean, like part of the reason, you could do contact tracing right now if you wanted to. There's an app on everyone's phone, Android and iOS, where you can set up for contact tracing and they will let you know if you ran into anybody who said that they've tested positive.
If they also had the contact
tracing app. But a lot of people don't want to do it because they're fearful that the government is now watching what you're doing. Like they're getting your exact GPS coordinates for wherever you're going.
Yep.
And there's a distrust in the government. But there isn't a distrust in San Francisco like that because they've shown that they are very serious about keeping sort of the privacy aside. So...
yeah, and I mean, I think that's the difference too. It's not just... I think San Francisco City had the app, right? That was the other thing, is that the city put out their own app, and that's different. I don't trust Google's, I don't trust Apple's, I don't trust the national one, but it's different if you are associated with the city. And I know another example you used is at Baltimore, the way that we felt there about Johns Hopkins. That like the people from Johns Hopkins come out and say, this is serious, we got to take it seriously, and everybody's like, so I guess we got to take it seriously then. But I grew up on the Eastern Shore, and it's totally, there's like, some eggheads tell us we got to do something. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
There's no difference in education between those two places. It's you've grown up in a place of public trust.
Right.
And on the Eastern Shore, they're ignorant. They haven't grown up in a place of the public trust. Yeah. That's what I mean. Anyway, so we are going to have an extended lightning round where we're going to try to limit the talk on the topics. If you've heard the beeping in the background, I've been keeping time. We're keeping this time going. So,
because we have so much to get through.
There is a lot that came up this week, and we're going to try to get to as much of it as possible without being, 4 hour long. Again, we're not Rogan yet.
I mean, Spotify wants to cut a check. I'm not opposed.
I would love to quit my job and just do this. Honestly, here's a promise I made.
I'll interview Kanye. I don't care.
I do a 10-minute podcast every single day. I do a 20-minute podcast additional to that twice a week. And then I do a 60 to 90-minute podcast once a week on top of that, as well as live stream nearly 7 hours a week. If I have the work ethic, Spotify. If you cut me a check, I will quit my job. I will be on your app all day, every day.
We're not talking about Rogan money.
I don't need Rogan money.
We're cheap. We'll come cheap.
Well, I mean, compared to Rogan,
yeah, clearly.
And to be fair, if they built a really nice studio, it's not like I'd go to my apartment anyway. I would just stay there.
Stay there.
Give me a studio with a shower, and I will live there as well.
Shower and a couch is all I need.
Yeah, so if somebody knows somebody at Spotify, give a shout out or whatever. But speaking of big companies that have too much power, Google in the news this week.
So Department of Justice has said that they're going to start an examination into whether or not to break up Google over antitrust violations. And for people who are not old like Rob and I, you will not remember Microsoft going through antitrust in the early 90s, right? Mid-90s?
Yeah.
It's been a solid, 25 years or so since that has happened. So,
well, I was going to say, I remember it started after Windows 95, and then Gates had the balls to drop 98, which was like on everything while they're in the midst of an antitrust negotiation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, all right. I'm going to put the thing that has to be on every.
That's part of the thing that people don't, we're going to talk about this now, and then maybe in 2 or 3 years, we'll have the conclusion of this at some point when they work through it.
I mean, and if not before, because the other thing that happens is it's an investigation, but it's also a negotiation the entire time.
Yeah.
And at some point, Google lawyers will identify what is the thing that you are looking at that makes you think that this violates antitrust.
Right.
And what can we do to address that?
Yeah.
Because I think you had an interesting point that this is not Standard Oil. They are not basically controlling everything from the ground to the car. Well, that's not true. They do, but...
Yeah, I mean, so what's interesting about this is it's like a monopoly by choice as opposed to one that's being forced upon people. Right. So, Google is in search. That's their first business. So... there's lots of search engines. You can go to Yahoo. You can
Ask Jeeves.
You can ask Jeeves if you wish.
Bet that's still around. Hey, let me Google and see if Ask Jeeves is still around. Hang on a sec.
But I mean, at a certain point, you're going to have to, the reason why Google search is so much better or so much loved. Did you Google it?
Ask Jeeves is still a platform. Ask.com, but Ask Jeeves was their guy.
Right.
That is crazy. I can't believe they're still in business. Who's
keeping Ask alive?
My dad's the one who's... my dad is the guy who's Googling Ask.com and then going to Ask.com to ask his question.
Your dad's the one who goes to Google and says, can I ask Jeeves something?
Yes. So,
please put me in touch with Jeeves.
You guys don't remember Ask Jeeves. Yahoo started out as a search engine primarily. Right. Bing is a search engine.
That's right, Bing.
That's right.
Poor Bing.
No, but I mean, Jonah, what's his name? Was the spokesperson for Bing, and he was doing look how fast Bing is, as opposed to, yeah, poor guy.
But I the reason why they're so successful is not because they crushed the rest of the competition. They just crushed them by being better.
Yeah,
and I mean, along the way, Google has been able to do exactly this, and I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with Google. Clearly, there are very serious issues with privacy and how much data they have and what they have of you and the file that they basically put together on you to be able to make sure that you get the most concise advertising you want. Mm-hmm. But, you also sign up for this. This is all part of the agreement.
I gave it to them.
Yeah, you give up that information for free for the free product that you get. You're paying for it in data as opposed to money.
And let me say to the antitrust investigators, I have done this willingly for two reasons. One, their free products are awesome, and I have chosen to be in the Google sphere. And by the way, yeah, Android takes over the market because they gave that away for free too.
Yeah, that's free.
Put it on whatever phone you want to put it on. It's fine.
It's open source. It's literally.
But the other reason I did that is because I'm relatively sure that at this point in my involvement in the Google universe, if something tragic was to happen to me, that they could recreate my personality completely in some form of AI. And I survive forever. And don't you want me to be the ambassador to some future civilization? Doesn't that make everyone happy and not terrified completely?
Well, so we'll keep an eye on this one, and if anything comes of it, but I'm sure the government's main focus is on how much cross-platforming is going on here. Because if you're writing an email in Gmail that says like, oh man, I really need to get a new vacuum cleaner, and then all of a sudden in Google search, you're seeing a lot of vacuum cleaner ads, and you never said anything about it other than in this one email, then there could be a case that because you have such a diversified business and you're letting them talk between them, you're giving yourself an unfair advantage against the rest of the market who doesn't have the access to the information you have.
See, and I hate that too because I forget about things so easily, and I'm reminded. Facebook's the same thing. I forget about stuff that I've searched for or I've talked about, and then I see an Instagram ad, and I'm like, this is exactly what I was looking for, and I forgot. Awesome. And then I spend money, and then 7 weeks later, some product from China shows up at my door, and I'm like, wait, didn't we talk about wireless earbuds? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, I think I bought some. I completely forgot about it.
It's weird though, because I mean, like, you know, I think in a way, as much as like spying and gathering personal information is unsettling, I am more happy, I think, that I get ads that are relevant to what I want, at the very least. If I'm going to get ads, I'd rather it be something like...
that's useful to
I don't want to get tampons or something like that, because they need to advertise tampons to everyone because women and men could be watching this at any given point in time, and you don't know. But if they can specifically say, like, we don't need to advertise to the men on Facebook about tampons, then you can cut out that part of the market share. If you put it on CNN as like a advertisement... you're just hoping that as many people see it as possible.
I mean, and listen, when Spotify signs us and we're trying to do ads for our podcast, we want to make sure that it's only reaching people who are going to want to see it. So, you know, those on the extreme left politically, those who want to make movies, those QAnon people, that'll be random just because, you know, we talked about it that one time. But speaking of things that are disconcerting, Corey, by the way, another topic this week, I'm starting to agree with the Catholic Church, and I don't know how this is going to impact me in the future.
Oh, they finally turned you.
Well, I mean, it's first of all, I got that Christian guilt. You understand the guilt.
Catholic
it's not
guilt,
Catholic, but it's Christian, and so I always have that deep within me. And I think you put it aptly. See what happens when you put a Jesuit in there?
Yeah.
You put a Jezzy in charge, and things just go crazy.
Man, the Jezzies. They're always pushing buttons.
But yeah, so Pope Francis, who, and I don't want to get too far into it.
By the way, just as an aside, I always liked that, like, you know, if you went to Catholic school in Maryland, it was Loyola or, you know, like some sort of like saint of perpetual sorrow or whatever. Like, and then you go to the Jezzy school and it's Friends. Come to Friends school.
Yay! So Pope Francis, we talked about this a long time ago. This would have been 2014, which would have been the first year of the podcast. But essentially, Corey argued that before gay marriage was legalized by the Supreme Court in 2015 or so, it's been a long time. We've done a lot of episodes. That going with civil unions and then working on the church angle, and then once the church is on your side, basically saying like, well, listen, government's giving me a civil union. I can get married at a Catholic church. Why are we not just basically equalizing all of these things? What does it matter? And it took it took what everything always takes. When you get the white European men out of the way, all of a sudden progress just happens.
Get the junior Nazis out and bring in a Brazilian, and all of a sudden,
you get a Jesuit Brazilian guy into the Holy See, and all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I've been reading the words in red. I don't see anything specifically in here Other old white guys. Yeah, I had a conversation with God. If you were the Pope, you'd understand. I can actually talk directly to him.
I just go in the closet, I close it, I'm like, Your Excellency, and he talks to me.
And he said, nah, that's cool. So it's going to be cool now. Everybody cool with that?
In between bong hits, God's just like, yeah, it's cool.
First of all, why can I picture Pope Francis just like getting high in some
in the closet? I'm talking to God, man.
Yeah. He's like, where's the Holy Father? And he's like, oh, he's conversing with God. And like the door pops open, smoke comes rolling out.
All right. Now we've had a Jesuit. I think we need to have a pothead in the papacy. All right, we need to just get some Pope Cheech III to just walk out and just be like, yo, man, what's with all this hating on each other's neighbors and shit, man? That ain't cool.
I'm sensing that there is a screenplay here that is just red box gold.
All I need to do is get Cheech Marin involved. I gotta find.
Well, listen, you can get Cheech or you can get Chong. Either way, I feel like it works no matter what. And if you get one, you probably get the other. So,
or I could just get Jeremy Strong to redo his character from Trial of Chicago 7.
Yep.
Get some real acting sheen on that thing, you know.
But then it's just another white guy. That's why I think you got to go with the person of color because history would show that the white
Chong's
guys.
a Canadian, so
yeah, white guys are the guys who are not opening up things up, even if they're political. So
yeah, but big step for the Catholic Church. I'm glad they've joined the party. And again, like I'm not wild about civil unions as far as like that as an alternative to marriage, but as I was saying back when civil unions were on the table at places where marriage was not, I would rather take the civil unions and then continue fighting from there. Because there was a lot of like, wasn't Kentucky like offering like a civil union partnership thing that you
domestic
could do through the
partnership? Yeah,
but like effectively, if I remember correctly,
exactly
most of the coverage that you would get from being married was the same under the partnership.
Yep, you just didn't get a marriage certificate.
You didn't. Yeah, you just didn't get the exact certificate. And but like legal protections were essentially the same.
Yep.
I would have just taken, and again, I'm not part of the gay community who really decides what they want at the end of the day. I'm
also
willing
not
to
part of the community is getting married. So I mean,
like I'm willing to fight alongside what they want, but I'm saying like at the end of the day, it's not my decision to make. But
right.
I would have taken that. I would have taken that and fought for more after I had it. It's so much easier to do it that way.
Yeah, and I'm of the opposite belief, and I think that we are in the same position we were back in 2014, where I'm like, why is government in the marriage business to begin with? Let's give everyone a civil union and just say, if you want marriage, go to a church. Apparently the Catholics will get it done for you now. Who knew? But if you want the government to recognize you and give you tax benefits and let you go see your spouse in the hospital, civil union, that's what you want. Yeah. Don't worry about the marriage. Church gives you a marriage certificate. We give you a union paper or whatever. Yeah. Also, I just like the government giving out union papers. But things I don't like the government doing, lying to grand jurors and keeping them from having justice come out. We talked a few weeks ago about the lawsuit between two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor trial, and that they were suing to unlock the transcripts and also to be able to talk about what happened. And apparently the court said, okay, that's fine. You should be able to. There's no reason to keep it secret. And then we learned that they probably should have let it keep secret because the grand jury was blocked from even considering homicide against any of the police officers. Yeah. So that is...
and that came from Cameron, apparently.
Yes.
The Attorney General of Kentucky.
It's unbelievable that you don't just present them with, here is the least charge you can go with, here is the greatest charge you can go with, meaning like, theoretically, the facts here could support this. I'm going to tell you, they don't. Yeah. But you could find that they did. Corey sneezes. Roberto, 4 weeks later, dies because he had a cold and he went to the hospital. Now, that is not intentional homicide, but could I make the facts look like maybe that was an intentional homicide? Yeah. Sure. Because if you're a prosecutor,
sway the jury in the
if you're a prosecutor, you present all the evidence. Yeah. And I could find some angry tweets.
You also don't have to worry about the defense coming in and objecting to anything or saying that's not relevant or that doesn't matter to the case or anything like that.
Yeah. So then to say you are going to limit it and tell the jury, not only do you not get murder one, but you cannot consider homicide at all. Yeah. These officers, I'm going to tell you, officers were acting within the color of their state authority, which means homicide's off the table. here's what you can look at, is unconscionable. And so once again, I think that everyone who was protesting was angry. Some of them directed that anger at the grand jury. But from what I can tell, based on the information that's come out, they gave the worst charge they possibly could give to someone in this case.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just like dereliction of duty. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's the problem is, much like we said when the grand jury results first came out, we knew that this whole thing was going to end up like this.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know how they went about doing it. Now we know how they went about doing it, and it's all the more sickening because everyone was there was a whole charade of like, we're going to care about Breonna Taylor, and so that was clearly never in Louisville or Kentucky's interest to do.
And I feel like they made the bet.
They cut the check with the family.
They made the bet we're going to pay him off, and then it won't matter to the family, and we're going to get out of this. It'll be a little bit of like.
Except for the family's been doing nothing but saying this shit is bullshit.
Yep. You figured wrong. Sorry about that, boys.
The checks officially cashed, right? You guys fucking suck.
I think the other part of that is I imagine somebody on the grand jury had some sort of legal training or watched a lot of Law and Order.
Yeah.
Because they could have done dereliction of duty charges against the three officers that are the focus. Got nothing. It was the fourth guy who fired wildly. And I think if I was on that grand jury, which they wouldn't put me on because, again, lawyer, I would have been like, no charges for any of these guys. Because if they go to trial on this, double jeopardy against a murder trial. Like, this statement of facts has been decided. They are guilty or not guilty of a crime based on these facts. That you could argue double jeopardy to charge them with murder in the future. No, let them walk now. We'll get somebody else, and in the future, another group will be able to actually go for homicide against them. So, but it's sad. I mean, what are you gonna? It's sad, but disappointed, but not surprised.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
Speaking of sad, we had a final debate in this last week.
Yes. Wait, Corey, I'm going to tweet while you talk. Go ahead.
We decided that we weren't going to do a live show afterwards because I didn't realize that the debate was happening until about 10 minutes before it happened. So I was like, oh, well.
And I actively decided to take an activity I would have preferred to do here and just do it in a video game. And by that, I mean drop into Warzone and start using firearms on the street.
Oh, man. You always have to do it.
I know. But so I did watch some of the videos. I also figured that the highlights were going to show me everything I wanted to see anyway.
Yeah.
What are we going to hear? Joe Biden's going to be for something. Trump is automatically going to be against it, even if it doesn't make sense to be against it because it's supported by most people. And Trump may have in the past also been for something. Like Trump has been pro-choice in the past. But Biden's pro-choice. I can now not be pro-choice at all. I have to be like...
Well, he's also got to be a Republican now, so...
But he doesn't have to be a life begins at conception Republican.
Right.
There's a lot of gray area in between, but he's going with life begins at conception. So,
I mean, the whole thing was, more of the same. It wasn't as, it was more like a regular debate. And I think that the people who really support Trump will say that this was his best performance.
Which it was.
I find it hard to argue that it wasn't his best performance. His best performances are not on the same level as Joe doing a regular old job.
Yes.
So there's that. I think the mute button worked, but I also don't think that Trump was going to interrupt this time.
Well, I thought you made an interesting point, which was just that going into this, it was his best performance, but that's because he already knew, like, I'm not going to get away with the hijinks from the last time, so I'm going to have to play this one straight. And then, but again, once he plays it straight, what's the point of watching? I know where you guys both stand, and they're not going to let you actually debate. Well, really?
Yeah, and I mean, the real problem is that, like, it's not like we're going back and forth on issues. Like, Biden is trying to bring up issues, and Trump is trying to bring up whatever the latest storyline is on Tucker Carlson. And if you're not in that world, the problem is if you don't watch Fox News at all, or don't take in Breitbart, or don't read the New York Post or anything like this, then, like, you're putting yourself in a position where you just don't know what the fuck that he's talking about.
Yeah.
And he's like bringing up Hunter Biden, like I know all the things that are like, because there are like really unspeakable rumors that get spread around the right wing internet.
Oh, you mean QAnon? Is that what you're talking about? Like, yeah.
Like where you find out about this shit like 2 weeks later where it's just like, wait a minute, what is this story about?
Well, it's already been disproven. Don't worry about it. Okay. All right.
Well, great, I guess.
I mean, I think the only thing that Biden could have watched to prepare for this is the episode of the Chappelle Show where he pretends to be the first black president going to Congress, where he's like, I don't know about you guys, but I think life begins at conception. We got to outlaw this abortion thing.
No, that was Key and Peele with Obama.
Yes,
negotiating with the Republicans.
And then they're like, no, a woman's right to choose is important. Oh, got me there. All right.
Really bending me over the barrel here, gentlemen.
Yeah, like that's what Biden, the only way anything would have progressed is for Biden to walk in there and just be like, you know what? Free market needs to reign. We got to have to let things go. Because Trump, I think, by automatic would be like, what? No. We need to intervene more in the economy. In fact, I'm going to go home and I'm going to sign a bill tonight that is going to put money in your pocket.
Have Biden walk up on the stage just being like, you know what? I love white supremacy. And he's just like, fuck the Proud Boys.
And if we can find that, put the link, because I just realized also that came out like 15 years ago. So the likelihood that anyone actually knows that, it probably was 2006. And I'm like, that was out last year. Nope. I'm pretty sure I watched it on streaming like a decade after it actually came out on TV. So that's cool. I'm old. All right. So speaking of old, Mitch's hands were in the news this week.
Yeah, and his face.
So again, if you're not in, I think this is a Politico kind of thing. Like you have to be in politics, but I saw some memes, so maybe the cool kids will know about this.
Yeah.
You haven't watched Lovecraft Country, right?
No.
You? Okay, so there's a character on Lovecraft Country. It's not. I'm not going to give a spoiler. I'm just going to say you think he's white, and he is white, but they use magic. It's a world of magic, and at some point he almost died, and he used a spell to put his head on a donor body, and by donor body I mean the cops murdered a black guy and put his head on the guy's body, and his hands look basically like Mitch's hands look like. And I think I sent you the picture that was like, I wonder if this is what Mitch has going on underneath. Like that dude is the guy from Lovecraft Country, white supremacist, blatantly homophobic and against people of color, and really wants to put people in their place. Yeah, which sounds a lot like Mitch McConnell. Yeah. And I'm just wondering if maybe the writers of Lovecraft Country knew something we didn't. So
maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Let's put that in the QAnon.
I gotta start my own. This is R-Anon. Welcome to R-Anon.
I've thought about it. I really have. I was just like, why don't I just create like an anonymous thing and just put up bullshit on the internet and see how much of it takes? Like,
hey, you're a writer, man. You can come up with some crazy stuff. But here, the bigger point, all conspiracies aside, is
the problem is that like mine would have like subtext and like reason behind it.
Nope.
Like I would avoid the childlike wonder of a story about like, oh yeah, SEAL Team 6 is totally dead. Like Obama killed him.
Yeah,
like
it's a secret.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a pizza place that has a sex child trafficking ring in the basement.
It doesn't have a basement.
That doesn't have a basement.
It's definitely down there.
But my reason for wanting to talk about this is kind of the reason for this whole episode, and that's old white people are really ruining fucking everything. Yeah. And this is a particularly old white people problem. My dad is old. He is also a Republican, and I will never come to terms with him on that, but I still love him because he's my dad. I also just am probably not welcome at home most times. My visit home has to be on a limited basis because we get to the point where it's just like, when are you going back to the Republic of California? Because that's how he is.
The Democratic Republic of California.
The Democratic Republic of California, that's right. But he has this where like he'll bump a door, and the next time I look at his hand, it's just swollen up and bruised. And I'm like, what the? And he's like, I bumped the door. Yeah. What? And like, oh, I was scratching my face. Half of your face is swollen up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, went a little too hard. It's an old white people thing. We gotta stop putting old white people in these positions.
Well, I mean, you know, less than a week or about a week away from being able to take that away from him if you want to, people of Kentucky. So
nah. Oh yeah, there is a much younger, much more, some would say, qualified candidate, someone with military experience who, you know,
much more handsome.
Very much more. Very much more. Who will actually represent your interest? Who isn't looking to become a multi-millionaire, even though they entered with about $70,000 in personal wealth. Anyway, so Mitch's hands are creepy. Also creepy, the Borat movie. Corey and I both watched that. Reviews are going to be forthcoming, I'm sure. I shouldn't speak for Corey, but there will be a review forthcoming from me.
I hate to do this, but I feel like I have to side with Rudy Giuliani.
Oh no! Here we go.
I watching that whole segment, they didn't really let it get any further than him having his hand down the front of his pants, but it sure did look like he was trying to fix his shirt.
Yep.
And
hey, I'm gonna give him we've all been there. Sometimes there's a little adjustment necessary.
Well, I mean,
during
like
that
while
process.
you're down there, you might as well take the time to make a quick adjustment if you need to.
Yeah, typically dress left.
Yeah,
and the soldiers moving to the right. You got to redress him back down to the left.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
women listening to this are like, "What the fuck are they talking
These
about?"
guys are fucking always thinking about their junk. No, I think that I think if the camera continued to run, if Sacha Baron Cohen did not interrupt, there might have been more. But I also don't think that they wanted to put the actress in the place of having to fight off Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
So,
but I think also she wouldn't have to fight off Rudy Giuliani. She would have had to bait him further, which wouldn't have been as good as what they wanted.
And I mean that's the other part. Like like you hear the because everyone was talking about it in terms of like Rudy Giuliani was laying down on a bed with his pants off, and like this young girl who's was interviewing him, and Borat runs in and goes, "She's 15, she's too old for you." Like like all this sounds really bad, and then you watch it and it's like it's still cringeworthy because it's still Rudy being cringy, but like also she's definitely putting on the flirtation a little bit to him, sort of like priming the pump for something to happen. And
also,
I mean, like,
she's not 15. He would have no indication that she was 15.
Yeah.
She did not look 15. And although they pitched her in most of that trailer as like, look how young she is.
Yeah.
In that scene, she is acting as a professional reporter.
Right.
And I mean, I guess she is a professional reporter for that matter, because she started a blog and was actually reporting on stuff. Got taken to the West Wing with no mask because that's how they rock.
My favorite my favorite line that I saw that didn't even make the movie was she was talking to a reporter from OAN.
Yeah.
And the OAN reporter was going like, "Oh, all the fake news media on the left and blah blah blah," and then she brought up the really solid point that I've never actually heard anyone bring up before. And it's like, why do you think all the fake news is only on the left? And then she like went like. And you could see the like hello darkness my old friend moment.
The rubber band broke inside and she's like,
wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Could I work for fake news?
Could there be fake news on the right?
Yeah.
Is this a thing?
And again, I don't want to be in a position of defending Rudy Giuliani. He is cringy and he is creepy and he is really either dumb or just a puppet and he doesn't care what he says. But in this situation, I was waiting for the other thing. And I read an interview where Sacha Baron Cohen said, "I let it go as far as I thought I could, and then I rushed in because the safety of my actress was number one." And I believe that he thinks that that's true, and I believe that he would protect his actresses. But I also think he realized what we talked about, that like she was going to have to bait him more. This was as good as it was going to get, and he was going to be able to say, "I rushed in to save her." So
I think as a producer worried about the safety of somebody, like there's a way that you're watching this, like so I think you could definitely watch this scene as a Republican and say Rudy did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
She was flirty with him. He didn't cross a line. He was tucking in his shirt. Like there's nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
They were trying to catch him in something and they didn't. I can also see how the point of view of Sacha Baron Cohen or any of the producers who's like watching on a monitor somewhere is like, oh fuck, something's about to happen.
If he whips his dick out, what are we going to do?
Get in there right now. And like, I don't know. Like, I don't really think there's much of a story here other than it was funny to watch in the context of the movie. Like, like it was a funny movie.
And again, I can't say
deeply unsettling, but funny. Like,
I looked like he was adjusting his T-shirt, but it didn't get any further. And there was a chip. Maybe he was about to whip his dick out right before Sacha Baron Cohen came. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they cut the thing about like, oh yeah, it was coming out, and that's why I rushed in. I didn't see it. What I did see was the 30-second shot before that from the behind where she was leaning over him, taking out the mic.
Yeah.
And it looked very suggestive before they came back around to the
Well, like I said, like there's a way that Rudy can have his hand on the waist of a woman without it being a sexual advance.
But
and while while you can also read the creepy guy touches girl's side because he has an opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
Like, I think that all that came before it made it seem like, like she touched him several times.
Yeah.
So it seemed like there are people I hug and like give like big bear hugs to because I know they are accepting of, like they look forward to the hug, know? Like I don't do that to some random person I just meet for the first time because I don't know what the line is. But if I meet somebody and they're like, "Oh my God, you're Corey," and they give me a big bear hug, then I'm gonna give it right back.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't, again, like not to say that Rudy, if things had continued, wouldn't have gone south, but like as far as like calling balls and strikes, I don't see it here.
I was gonna say the there's also the in between where I think all women and all men are aware of the like semi innocuous touch that is looking for. Is this all right?
Yeah.
Is this? Because you can then walk it off with the, oh, yeah, you were leaning on one leg. So, sorry, I was just like holding it. Or if it's
I just put my hand here in case you fell. Like I wasn't trying to.
But if there's like a little like rubbing into it and making a move and you're like, okay, so I could walk this back if I need to, but it's also letting her know I'm open if this is.
Yeah.
Could be that too. Could be any of those things. And we will never know because it was stopped.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was
Unfortunately, she wasn't related enough to Rudy for him to make a move on. So they had to. He had to move on to.
You think I'm the one who's going to get the podcast sued? There went our Spotify deal right there. But yeah, so in other conspiracy nonsense, apparently Hunter Biden is still in the news, which I don't know why it's a thing. But
all I want to say, this is really because it's gotten the QAnon people have really gone all out on this one, and I need to make it very specific to people because I don't think people know that there is a difference between the news side of an organization and the opinion side of an organization, or the entertainment side of an organization. So, for instance, Fox News has been sued several times for things that they've said on air that have been, an individual sue saying that there was libel or slander for what was said on Fox News, right? And eventually what it comes to is Bill O'Reilly isn't a news show. Bill O'Reilly is an opinion show. Mm-hmm. So when he says things, they're not based off of things we verify from the news. They're verified by his opinion.
O'Reilly's on a show called O'Reilly's on a show called O'Reilly. Hannity's on a show called Hannity.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson's on a show called
Tucker Carlson.
Is it Tucker Carlson?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are clearly an opinion show where they are the person holding the opinion.
Right. It just happens to be on Fox News.
Right.
So.
And our news hour is separate and apart from that, and everything on the news hour is certifiable news, which I don't even think they do anymore.
You'll talk to people who like hate Fox News with the passion of 1,000 suns, and at the same time they'll be like, well, there's some really good journalists who do really solid work for Fox News. They're just working for the 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. stretch of programming where
I was gonna say,
people are just trying to get their stocks. Like
there's somebody somewhere who can say, listen, our planet was a waste, but the empire came and then we got streets and we got roads and the engineers are doing really good work. Stormtroopers, not so much, but the engineers, they're the ones who are really working hard.
And I mean, like, so the New York Post.
I just made a Star Wars reference and I realized that I don't think Corey got the Star Wars reference.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so that was for all of you at home and for Roberto. Corey didn't get it.
The New York Post, when they had originally posted their Hunter Biden story, which, by the way, got passed around to all serious news outlets who all passed on it. And then it ended up on page 6, which is the editorial / opinion / entertainment section of the paper.
In fact,
this
being
is very,
on page 6 is a thing. You're on page 6.
Well, and not only that, but page 6 is based off of like community, or like based off of like, if I'm a big celebrity and you work for page 6, then I might, like create a relationship with you where I call you from time to time, talk and like create a friendship, because at some point I'm going to want you to know that I'm leaving Soho House with the hot new actress.
Oh yeah.
And I want you to snap some pictures. So I'm going to call you up and I'm going to be like, hey, just so you know, me and Emma Stone are leaving Soho House at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. tonight. You might want to check it out. Like,
it's funny what old guys think the hot new actress is. No idea who Ana de Armas is, but
yeah,
Emma Stone's the hot new actress.
Well, I was just picking out a name.
Okay.
I was grasping for a name.
Yeah, but like, yes, Miss Kardashian. That is what they do.
No, but I'm saying like,
why is the paparazzi here? Girl, you called them a half hour ago.
he
What
said
are you
I'm
talking
leaving.
about?
Yeah. Of course that's why they're there. They don't just all go like, man, I hope something happens at Mr. Fish tonight. So yes, like, you know, it's like the National Enquirer. Like we used to, there was never a way for a National Enquirer story to get the kind of viral Facebook reaches all eyes thing that a New York Post article can today, a Page 6 story can today. But we used to all look at National Enquirer news like, you know, like, is Clinton really a secret alien? And we'd say, no,
of course he's not.
Clearly not. But somebody told a reporter at Page 6 that I heard something about Clinton being an alien. And then they said, that's good enough for me. And then they wrote the story.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there needed to be somebody who said it so that they could type it. But they didn't need to go and fact check it. As soon as they got somebody to say it independently, even if it was like, hey, Rob, do you mind saying this out loud for me so I can type it down? Like,
But I think also in the end, if the National Enquirer wasn't the National Enquirer prior to the Facebook age, it would 100% be shared around as if it's legitimate. And there are National Enquirer websites which say in the About Me that they are essentially the National Enquirer. They get passed around Facebook as if they're actual news.
Yeah.
This
But
is-
I'm
this is
saying,
how it is.
you know, like, whether or not Hunter Biden did anything, we can sure. Like, I'm fine. Like, if you want to figure out whether or not he's doing something corrupt, like, sure.
Yeah.
Nobody has found any evidence of this so far, but
No.
you know, if you want to have a hearing, then feel free to have one after the election. But, and I knew you will because you can't help yourself.
You're going to
but,
spend
like,
the next 4 years having those hearings. It's fine.
But, you know, also at the very end, literally every single scandal that they've tried to peg Joe with, there is a similar, if not worse, scandal on the other side.
Yep.
So there's a new one about Hunter Biden having a sex tape. There are literally naked pictures of Melania Trump on the internet.
Yep.
From her modeling nude. And besides that, there's a purported sex tape with the president in Russia.
First of all, there are several purported sex tapes with the president in Russia, one of which has somebody peeing on him.
Yeah. So you know, like that sounds a lot worse to me than Joe Biden's son has a sex tape of some kind.
Yeah.
You know, and like the idea that Joe Biden is corrupt and is taking money from Hunter Biden's illicit deals, like, okay, something worthy of examining. Nobody has shown any proof of this happening so far,
No.
but you know, if you're willing to show me hard factual proof, I'll look at it. But in the meantime, Trump is doing worse than like he's not paying his taxes. There's evidence of that. He has a secret Chinese bank account. There's evidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's paid more money in taxes to China than he has to the United States. There's evidence of that.
Yep.
There is not Trump defending any of these things other than saying that they're all fake. He won't release his tax returns. He won't do anything to put an end to these things. Like,
That's fake news. Look over here.
yeah. But Biden got 10% off of the deal that Hunter Biden did with Burisma, and I'm just like,
That I'm coming up with
you
that
literally
fact off my
had
head.
Pence fly across Ireland to stay at your golf resort.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, where are we? You know, I don't know. Like, it's just fascinating to me that people are like, talk more about Hunter Biden, and I'm just like, what did he do?
Yeah.
like he's not running for president. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we used to all like not us. This is before our time.
Even
so
before
not
us,
even,
yeah.
not even way older.
No, but
than us.
even in our
But
time,
I mean,
though,
like,
the Bush daughters,
oh well, I mean, like, yeah,
they
there
were
was
kind of
that.
controversial, but we didn't really bring it into the
But
election.
I mean, like, there was Billy Carter, like, selling Billy beer and stuff like that. Like,
Roger Clinton.
yeah, I mean, there's been a long scheme of, like, fuck ups of people who are related to the first family, and
Yep.
we don't really care.
George W. Bush. He was a huge fuck up during.
The son of George H.W. Bush.
Yes, yeah.
He
Huge
had that
fuck up.
DUI once.
Cocaine conviction.
Yeah.
Then somehow that all disappeared, and he got elected president a few years later.
Oh, that's right. He was president. So I guess when Hunter Biden goes to run for president
I was
in
gonna
a
say,
couple of years,
and
then
then
we'll
he was
bring
a-
it all up then.
His daughters were getting DUIs and having drug convictions, so when they run for president, it'll be something else.
It's all
Sure.
making
Yeah.
sense now.
So we're already a little bit long, but I know that you wanted to bring up one last topic, so I'm willing to extend it so we could talk a little sports ball. I'm
Yes.
putting you on a short leash. I'm running the timer. You got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Go.
Is it for both of them?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, World Series, very exciting the last two games. Before that, pretty much went by order, but I think we might be pushing a 7 here.
Yeah.
Rob is in conspiracy corner, thinking that the puppet masters at MLB are going to
Here's your
force
Rob,
a game 7.
Your R&On update. MLB wants it to go 7. It's gonna go 7. Just watch and see.
Maybe somebody will try and steal home plate, and that was a good move, though. I like that one. Obviously, rooting for the Dodgers as a newly 4 years now.
I was gonna say newly what? 4 years as of today.
As an Angelino, I'm supporting the Dodgers in their quest to win the World Series. But this Rays team has been a lot of fun, and I just think that if they could manage to find a little bit more money to be able to invest in this team, it could be real hard to beat. It's one of those, like, maybe you shouldn't have bottomed out. Maybe you should have just given a little bit more. But, like, he made it to the World Series, so what am I really... Who am I to judge?
Also, shout out to the reporter who showed how America really should deal with everything, which is not the greatest Spanish, but trying to conduct a bilingual interview with a Spanish-only speaking player, translating for everyone.
Well, so I was talking to Roberto about this because I think it's what's really fascinating to me about that is there have been journalists who speak Spanish fluently who have handled interviews before post game. So I specifically remember I think Pedro Gomez and Yoenis Cespedes had an interview where he would feed the question to Yoenis in Spanish, and then would quickly look towards camera and say, like, in English, like, you had a really great game today. What do you attribute that to? And then he would look at Yoenis, and then he'd answer in Spanish, and then he would translate for camera.
Yeah.
And then he'd ask the question, then he'd translate it, and then he'd get the answer, translate, and it worked really well. John Mioli is not a native Spanish speaker,
right,
and he has been learning how to speak Spanish because he thought that in a situation like this might come up, and has been sort of offhandedly preparing for this situation.
And I mean,
now,
I wanted to say applause for doing it, but there have been native Spanish speakers who have done it before, but for a guy to say not the thing that most Americans would say, which is you're in America, speak English, but to say no, the game's changing, I got to change with it. I'm going to learn how to speak Spanish so I can do this interview this way.
Well, I mean, like there's a lot of stories of catchers who as soon as Latin America became more of a part of the Major League Baseball clubhouse, speak Spanish. Like, it's just easier. Like,
some farm boy from Iowa, just all right, got to down for my Spanish class.
Well, apparently, like Greg Zahn was really great at Spanish. Like, so, like,
he's Canadian, right?
Yeah. No, he just played for the Blue Jays for a long time.
Oh, I thought he was actually Canadian too. I mean, I know he played for the Blue Jays. He played other places
He's
too.
Dempsey's cousin.
Is he?
Or nephew or something like that.
With a name like Zahn, I just think Canadian. I don't know why. Anyway, you got 2 minutes.
Okay. So, in Ravens news, right before the Ravens week, or the Ravens-Steeler week, Ravens-Steeler game, we got Dez Bryant signed to the practice squad.
Yeah.
So we have a new wide receiver to throw to, who isn't Antonio Brown.
And I was going to say, you think you said that this is like the NBA has its 10-day contract, essentially. Yeah. They're trying him out.
Well, they had him in for workouts early on in like before the season started, and apparently he's been staying in shape. So I imagine this is a come in, show us you're in shape.
Yep.
Practice with us for a week, see how it goes, and if it looks like there's a spot on this team, then we'll keep you on. If not, we'll let you walk. Like, but this is a chance for Dez to get back into it. So I imagine he's going to do everything he can to make the most of this opportunity.
It also may be a little bit of making the Steelers prep for it. Is there a Dez? Is there not a Dez? Yeah. Is there going to be a Dez? And you're like, all right, so we got to run 2 completely different practices. Do you have 2 amazing wide receivers, end of their careers, but 2 amazing wide receivers, or 1 plus whatever the Ravens have otherwise? I mean, they have other amazing wide receivers, but like Dez Bryant is Dez Bryant. I don't care if he's 45 years old. Doesn't matter.
And then the big news, always for the rest of the time, I imagine I'm going to be saying this at least once a year, so it might as well be right now. But thank you to whoever the GM of the Ravens is, whether it was Ozzie Newsome before or whether it's why am I forgetting his name right now when I was leading up to it too? God damn it.
Go ahead, I'll search for it.
Yeah. Trading for Yannick Ngakoue from the Vikings is a master stroke deal, and let me tell you why. Eric DaCosta, thank you. God damn it. What? And it's funny because I had his name in my head like literally when I started the sentence, and then by the time I got to it, I was like, fuck, what is it again? Anyway.
Hey, kids, this is what ADHD looks like.
The Vikings, when they thought they were going to be a Super Bowl favorite, traded for Yannick Ngakoue from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right. Yeah.
And they gave up a 2nd and a 5th round pick to get him for the 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And they paid the franchise tag to do so. Vikings are definitely not going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if you've seen their 1-5 record, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And they were looking to get out of that contract because why not try and get something for it? And the Ravens traded a 3rd and a 5th for Yannick Ngakoue. Now, he will be a free agent at the end of the year. This is maybe a rental. If you lose him, you get a 3rd round pick back as a compensatory pick.
Yep.
So you essentially traded him for a 5th round pick.
And he's like the 4th best player.
Yeah, and a Maryland
position.
kid too, which is always nice. Went to the University of Maryland, lives from Bowie. Like all of that works out really nicely. People are super excited. I think that,
and also
if you look at the defense
for people who aren't from Maryland, and you look up that kid, he's from a town spelled Bowie, which Corey just pronounced correctly.
Yeah, Bowie.
Yes.
You got to do it with that accent too, or else it's not
Doesn't count.
I have to imagine that if like somebody on the news, like a stodgy newscaster type, was just like, sad news today out of Bowie, Maryland. Bowie, Maryland.
I just imagine somebody looking at me like, Bowie? Bowie? No, that's not how you say it.
I tried to get him with Towson, but they did. Nobody fell for that one either. I'm super excited, and the defense is looking like it's rounding into form now that we got Dez. Hopefully that adds an extra layer of security for Lamar.
Chiefs are looking terrible, or questionable at least.
I mean, they lost to the Raiders,
Yep.
So we got that going for us. It was a closer game than it seems like against the lowly Broncos. So we'll see. I'm excited about the Ravens Steelers this coming week though, and
yeah, I'm gonna have to get up early.
Hopefully we don't get fucked on this one. That's all. That's all, my only hope.
Yeah, let's also hope Rob doesn't die on a scooter at 7:30 in the morning coming down here to watch football. All right,
I can pick you up.
So. No, that's all right.
All right. Well, the only place where you can get the top Ravens news.
Well, hang on. No, see, because it's not that. But you know where else you can find another team that's really rounding itself out?
OTheAnthem.com, Corey. OTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
Oh, I'm sorry, Corey. I just traded our producer for a 3rd round and 5th round.
It's almost amazing. I've had 341 times practicing this. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and @LegendsB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I have the review for Trial of the Chicago 7 up right now. I have plans for a lot of interesting content coming up, not just movie reviews, so keep an eye out for that. And I'll probably do a Borat or a Charm City King before the end of this week, so you'll have another review to look forward to.
Wait, does that make 2 in 1 week?
What?
Is that 2 reviews in 1 week? Oh no, Chicago was last week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, fine. Thought you were emulating your favorite review show.
Dear leader over here.
And speaking of which, of course, you can find me at all social media at Robert N. Cheek. More information available at robertandcheek.com. I do a bi-weekly review show. That's the Everyman Movie Review. You can find that at youtube.com/Rob Cheek. There's a playlist available there. Or you can find it in podcast form at anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews. Or wherever you find podcasts. That, of course, comes out twice a week, Thursdays and Sundays. If that's not enough content for you, I do a daily podcast just about cool, random, and interesting things. We've talked about the Electoral College over the last couple of days, and for another day from now, a little bit about the way that the U.S. government works. We're getting back into idioms. Then I have an episode about some mythical creatures coming up. So a whole lot of content, maybe with some sports or some tech stuff mixed in, if anybody ever figures out how to, find my work ethic.
I will have you know that you will have a sports one soon. I've been crafting a script for it.
How about that? So that's available every single day at anchor.fm/Rob Explains. We do a weekly summary every week on YouTube at youtube.com/Rob Explains. That's not true. It's not at Rob Explains. Get the link off of the podcast. Yep. And you can also get it wherever you get fine podcasts. There was one other thing. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Robert N. Cheek, where you can find me playing Warzone really terribly and yelling at Roberto because he doesn't know how to communicate. because he's a kid, so he doesn't really understand that. So all kinds of content everywhere. Oh, by the way, we're also doing parody songs every single Friday between now and the end of the year. You're going to have a new parody track. Last week, it was Antifa, which is a parody of Popstar. The week before that, it was Humble, which was a parody of Humble. And this week, we have another special. The men in the castle are returning for a encore presentation just in time for the election. You're not going to want to miss that. It's out on Friday.
Oh, man. Can't wait. All right. Well, I think we've done good here.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I forgot one other thing. Also, in November, I'm going to be writing a novel for National Novel Writing Month, and I'm building a team who wants to write their first novel or even their second novel and help support each other. So if you want to do that, come find me on social media. I'm going to be doing that while I also maintain all of this other content that I'm building. And, of course, we don't want to forget that Roberto is here for his last week until probably 2021. But you can find him out on his adventures at RTOAZN on all social media, including TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, which he never checks. And he's also on Facebook. And if you are looking for a very qualified actor with a very mediocre look, Roberto is available at all times. He also does voiceover work, and he's pretty fantastic with the voiceover work. So you can reach him on social media for context about that. Now we're good to go. Sorry.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
I think we've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey and Roberto, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay, now that we're officially off the podcast, should we make a list of all the things that Roberto is bringing back from Mexico?
Yeah, absolutely. But my bladder's about to explode. Hang on, let me go.
So, more meat, Fabuloso, trash bag full of weed,